Hey, you, Rachel here, and thank you for joining me today on the Pausecast. Today, I'm super excited to talk about the EQ our bodies have. Emotional intelligence, we hear this all the time. It's kind of the world of what I live in these days, coaching executives and leaders who are vested to improve themselves, to do better as leaders in general. But to do better, we got to be better. And to be better, we have to be in our bodies. And I want to talk about this concept of EQ in the body, the physical body, because we don't really think about it in those terms, but let's think about it now. Because listen, if we need to feel, we need to know how our bodies are feeling. We can't think the feeling. I say this all the time to my clients who are practicing naming feelings, naming emotions, because that's how we get better, how we strengthen our own physical and psychological muscles for like naming feelings. And I want to preface this a little bit because there's some history here I want to share. So first of all, did you know that emotions are literally stored in the body physically? They're stored, which means if we had a traumatic experience in our past or a really joyful moment, our bodies are storing that at the cellular level. And I want to give you a little bit of research and science here. Back in the day when I studied this at the Wright Graduate University and wrote papers on it, I want to talk about one of the leaders who really founded this in research, Dr. Candace Pert. So Dr. Candace Pert was a leader in her own field. She was incredible and credited with literally a pioneer in the field of psychoneuroimmunology. And she was studying the study of psychological processes in the nervous and immune systems. So she wrote a book in 1997, Molecules of Emotion. This is a really fascinating book, by the way, and she is no longer with us, but this book is so important in this work because she boldly claims through her research that peptides or short chain amino acids and proteins are key information substances throughout the body, and each of them can affect our mind, our emotions, our immune system, our digestion, e.g., the gut brain or the microbiome and other bodily functions simultaneously. So that's a pretty big deal. This was 1997, almost 30 years ago. And this is incredible because it was an unprecedented statement claiming that emotions aren't wired only in the brain. So just take a moment to think about this. Dr. Candace Pert, the late Dr. Candace Pert, her quote I love to think about is, "The body is the unconscious mind." The body's like a tuning fork is kind of where she went with this. And when you think about this today, back in current times, 2024, we have stress at an all-time high, burnouts 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 people in the corporate world. There's all kinds of things where we're on our phones or devices a lot, and we're eating processed foods at an unprecedented rate. All of this is adding up and getting stored in the body. Here's a quote I want to cite from her book. For decades, most people thought of the brain and its extension of the central nervous system as an electrical communication system, resembling a telephone system with trillions of miles of intricately crisscrossing wires. But new research and techniques for studying peptides and receptors show that only 2% of neural communications are electrical across a synapse. The brain is a bag of hormones. The body is the unconscious mind. Whoa. Okay, so what is that? What is Pert telling us? Well, what she's telling us is that 98% of communication in the body is not neuronal or electrical, but actually hormonal and by other means. Dudes, this is big. Hormonal and by other means. So we wonder, I know as a female, my hormones are kind of wild sometimes, actually a lot of the time. And it's not just because of me, it's because of the environment that I put myself in, the foods that I'm eating, the stressors that my body's taking on, and the emotions that I may not be completing because either they're in my body from the past and they're blocking myself at the cellular level from getting the nutrients that I might need, or the damages that have been done at the cellular level. And it adds up. I'm a bag of hormones. We're all a bag of hormones. You're a bag of hormones, right? And so I'm no neurologist. I know you know that. And if you don't, guess what? I am not a neurologist. Nor do I pretend to be one. But I do know that it's definitely different than what I thought was the case in my own research and learning about things before I read this book. So no wonder we feel so dependent on our everyday interactions, meaning how do we interact with others, ourselves, or with the world, with our own environment. So let's just take this again for a moment. So the body is storing things at the cellular level, where emotions can live and be there forever, literally, if we don't know how to deal with them, complete them, or heal them. And this leads to all kinds of issues that are and may surface in the body. All those things that I was thinking about. The human body is a tuning fork. Okay, let's just talk about that for a moment. I love that imagery, right? You know, a tuning fork, you hit it, you place it, and then there's a resonance. There's a sound that vibrates out from that tuning fork, and it's a certain frequency. So what Pert also says is that the human body vibrates like a tuning fork, literally. So emotions, they're not just the simple chemical response in the brain. They are electrochemical signals. They affect our chemistry and our electricity of every single cell. We have 30 trillion cells that regenerate every 30 days or so at the cellular level. Okay, so literally our bodies are constantly flooded with emotions at a cellular level. And this in turn affects not only who I am or you are, but how we are working to alter this chemical programming, depending on what our emotions are, how we feel, what we've expressed, what we've released, and what we've chosen to suppress and avoid. I think that's huge because I don't know about you, but in my family, I didn't really learn how to express a couple feelings, one of them being anger. Really wasn't okay to cry, usually, that it was sadness. And we were told, and I was told, my brother was told to be strong, to not be afraid, and to face our fears, of whatever version of that it was. So fear wasn't even okay. So I had to pretend I was good. I had to pretend I felt fine if I was literally really scared. And we all know our families do the best they can, but what about your family? I'm curious for you, if you think about what are the emotions that you may have suppressed or that were okay to release or not okay to release, because that really does affect us today as adults. And the cool part is we get to change it as leaders. We get to do different things, right? So how do we do different things? So here's some ideas for you. And it's really about this idea of pausing to tune in to that emotional wonderland we each have. I love that. Right. And so even Pert says this in her work, and it's in my work now, right? Techniques like meditation or visualization, even breath work, can all act as forces to set the molecules in motion. Right. So that's what her book is about. It's called Molecules of Emotion. And what that means is literally they're stored in the body. So it doesn't need to be meditation, though. It could be about what works for you. The key is to bring down your cortisol. How do you de-stress? So much is there to be said, but think about what works for you. It could be journaling. It might be going outside in nature. Nature is a huge, huge pause. That's such a beneficial daily pause. I can't get enough of it. Hopefully you're outside, at least getting sunlight in your eyes in the morning in some way, hopefully stepping outside and doing something different. But it could be a simple breath as well. Breath is huge, conscious breath, right? So taking that deep inhale, do this with me if you like, and exhaling out, quieting my mind, maybe having a morning routine. What are those things that you can do? And you can even use your memory to conjure up feelings of joy, of gratitude, and all that is in service to noticing how you're feeling and allowing yourself to not necessarily believe your thoughts, but know that you can choose how you're interacting with your thoughts and your feelings, because they interact and influence each other. So those are some ideas. They can hopefully lead you to doing some things that are different into how you how your body is releasing and storing emotions. Connection's another big one. So what if you went to even just give yourself a hug, right? Giving your hands over your shoulders, putting your, maybe wrapping a blanket around yourself. Those are really, really good. And when we're allowing ourselves to be present to what's going on, whether we feel good or bad, quote unquote, there is no good or bad emotions, by the way, but we think we feel good or bad. And that was me just catching myself there going, whoa, we're not good or bad. But sometimes we feel that because the emotions aren't comfortable. We think of an emotion as quote unquote bad or negative. And I'm here to tell you that's not necessarily ideal to be thinking about them that way. All feelings are data. Some are more comfortable than others, depending on how we grew up and how we think of them now. So what do we do about all this? I've got a couple ideas and we'll close this out. So again, just recapping, emotions are stored in the body at a cellular level. This is done from research from Dr. Candace Pert, the late Candace Pert, who had a heavy influence in understanding how T cells work, by the way, I believe in the in HIV and AIDS vaccines. Pretty cool stuff. So she had a lot of influence here, and I think her work is terrific. But get Molecules of Emotion if you want to read more about her or her work. And unless we choose to release those feelings or notice them or do something about them, they stay stuck in our body and they influence a lot of different systems, including the neuroimmunology, regulatory, regular heart, cardiovascular. I think all the systems are probably influenced by it. And this was her field, the one I couldn't pronounce. I don't even know if I want to try it again. I'll try it just because I feel like I want to try it. So her field is psychoneuroimmunology. I know, it's a big one. So here's some things that you can do now, because this is all about boosting your own body EQ. We talk about emotional intelligence and how to improve it, but we cannot do it unless we're really tuned in with the body. So first thing, accept that emotions are here for your own good, whether they are comfortable or not. But they're an extension of you. They go in the moment. They're happening in the moment. They're like waves. We might catch them, we might not. But they include all those emotions, including ones that might be hard to express. Maybe they're ones you want to avoid or ignore. And so the idea is to relearn, to readjust ourselves, to have a relationship to know, hey, I'm designed to feel. Pretty sure that the way we were designed wasn't an accident, and we're designed to feel emotions that aren't pleasant, but they're there so that we can move closer to pleasure when we resolve them. So know that they're all here for us and they're just data. The other thing to note is that emotions are here to be expressed fully and completely, but don't go into the drama about it. Right? That means no blame, shame, or justification, but being responsible for your own expression. There's so much more to hear on this, and maybe I'll do a podcast on this at some point about the drama triangle. I don't even think I've done that myself, but I teach it all the time. It's such a great tool. So instead of doing that, name those feelings you have. Name a feeling when it happens in the moment, because you have to drop into your body. You cannot think the feeling. You could guess it, but really to know what it is, we have to be present in our bodies. So right now with me, you can do this. Close your eyes if it helps, if you can, and just name a feeling that you're feeling right now in the moment. What is it? If you're feeling calm, I would call that joy, a subtle version of joy. If you're thinking about the racing mind things, all the work you have to do or the to-do list, that might be some fear, some anxiety. Just name it. I feel fear. That's a skill. It's something that a lot of us aren't used to doing because we weren't really taught that. I know at least I wasn't. But when you start to do this, you start to really get into the data of what's going on with you, which helps you make better decisions, be more present, and literally be a better communicator and ultimately do everything you do better because you're more in touch with what's going on with you. So you can be more in touch with others and the world. I also think as a next point to make, comfort is always good. Go for comfort. So don't expect someone else to read your mind, but if you want to be comforted, maybe you share what's going on with you and tell someone else how you feel. You could ask for a hug. You could look at someone and make eye contact. Those are ways that we can feel affirmed and validated. and it helps with our nervous system to regulate our emotions and our stress levels. Okay. And if you see someone else maybe going through some kind of emotional charge, maybe you see them and their expression changes, their smile goes away, or they start to smile. Maybe they've got a furrowed brow. Those are signs that something is getting experienced on the inside. So you could ask about it. What are you feeling? What's going on right now? I noticed your face went tense. Your brow furrowed. What's going on? Tell me what you're experiencing. Or you could share about you. I think that's very, very vulnerable and also a very powerful leadership move, because it's helping someone be seen and heard, and you're helping yourself to regulate and share emotions, potentially, if that's you expressing. So we can be the examples in the world, and it helps to start with us, and then also help others verbalize that response. And this is so great with kids. If you have kids in the house, children, it might be hard for them to express, but they're natural born expression machines, right? And so it can be okay to really do anything, again, without drama. So if there is drama, maybe there's a tantrum going on, there can be some guardrails around that and boundaries. But letting kids express even a little bit in a tantrum is huge. They get a chance to get that out of their system, and then they can be calm because you're there for them and present. And that's the hard part for everybody, right? So asking these questions are great starts for yourself to boost your own body EQ and emotional awareness. And maybe there's new insights that you would have that you otherwise wouldn't. Either way, I'm excited for you to try it. And remember the late Dr. Candace Pert, your body is a tuning fork.